coming back in. Thank you for your sitting practice. Taking a few breaths and landing again in our place of our noble seat. I thought tonight that I would take a few moments to clarify and just have a little bit deeper conversation about the practice of generosity, the first of the 3 pillars of the Dharma. And so it's generosity that is really one of the causes of gratitude. And the Buddha said that there are 2 kinds of remarkable, rare, and precious human beings in the world. But first, I have to give credit to my teacher, Kamala Masters, whose Dharma talks on dana I have heard over the years many, many times, and never grew tired of them, always heard something different, even though some of them were repeated information, of course. As we know from learning the Dharma, we hear things over and over again, and we hear them differently another time that we listen. And the more I think about the experience of the joys of dana, the Pali word, the longer and more thoroughly I explore it, the fuller my heart gets, and the more grateful I am for her and her patience and persistence in sharing her understanding of the dana with others. And so what were those 2 kinds of remarkable, rare, and precious human beings in the world that the Buddha was naming? It's those who are generous and those who are grateful. The practice of generosity is all about, really in a nutshell, it's all about sharing our lives with others. And how is that important? It's something good to reflect on. It's not all about how it benefits another, the ones that we do give to, that we practice generosity towards, but it's also a lot about how it benefits ourselves, our hearts, and our practice of liberation, and how it nourishes our highest aspirations. It's actually a foundation of our spiritual evolution. The Buddha spoke about generosity very highly, all of the time, actually, and it's the beginning practice of those that want to reduce or diminish the forces of suffering. And no spiritual life is possible without the practice of generosity. Sometimes you see the word dana, and I'm sure some of you are quite familiar with the word, but sometimes, Kamala used to joke and say that sometimes somebody would ask in a retreat, who's Dana? And so, but dana really is the Pali word, and it's the first of the 3 pillars of the Dharma. And sometimes the Buddha offered the Dharma based on these 3 pillars. In fact, he would always offer the first teaching that he gave to students, to those people, men, women, non-binary, lay people, monks, nuns, and he would offer the practice of generosity first. So of the 3 pillars of the Dharma, the first one is generosity. The second one is sila. It's also considered living in harmony, harmonious living. And the third one is called bhavana. And this is the mental development of concentration and through that wisdom, so that all of these 3 pillars are important foundations for spiritual growth. And they are what our ability to move on the path of liberation is all about. The Buddha usually began his teaching with dana, but when the teachings came to the West, because the West, of course, we have a great interest in in um, in mental and in trying to understand things and wanting to go right away into the meditation practice, the bhavana, the concentration practice. And so this is the practice of mental development. And in a way, we started it here in the West a little bit backwards. It would have been good if we gave more attention to the practice of dana, of generosity, and then of sila, which lays the foundation of ethical conduct, harmonious living. And so, more so in the last 15 years or so, teachers have been beginning to offer those teachings more and those understandings more. So one time on retreat, Kamala, who's one of my root teachers, she mentioned on retreat that she was helping one of her teachers, Munindraji. You've probably heard me tell some stories about Munindra in the past. She was helping him get through a period of time where he was recuperating from an operation for some surgery. And he was staying with her on Maui, and she was doing everything she could to help him through that time period. And he was his gracious and grateful self. And when he asked her one day if she was really aware of the practice of generosity and understood it with wisdom, not just practicing out of habit, out of the usual goodness of the heart that human beings have, but to understand it more deeply than that. Did she understand the wisdom of the practice of dana? So Munindra, being one of these great Dharma treasures, pure-hearted Indian being, and at that time she already realized that what a living Dharma treasure he was. And so she said, well, I'm doing it out of the most wisdom I know how. I'm offering care to you because you are one of those beings in the world who offer the Dhamma. And I want you to be well so that other beings, apart from yourself, apart from myself, can benefit from your health and your wealth, your knowledge. Later, she learned that it wasn't just offering the Dharma, but it's said that when you offer the gift of the Dharma, you offer the deathless, the ability to be free from greed and hatred and delusion, that a teacher offering the Dharma is offering the opportunity for freedom. And so to get to that place where one's heart can be that pure, and of course her help came out of loving kindness, out of compassion. But he told her, you can practice generosity with wisdom through truly understanding the cause and effect relationship of it, the immediate and far-reaching benefits of generosity. So he wanted her to bring it into the realm of conscious awareness, of wise intention, and not only from a natural good heart, which is a good thing to do, but it isn't as broad and it isn't as far-reaching as when we know the true value and the long-term value of it. So she thought about how true it was that she had offered her help and in her life had practiced generosity. She's a very generous person. She'd practiced it a lot. And it's out of, habituated mind state, out of heart state, out of routine, and sometimes just out of habit of the mind, just by habitually doing it. And it comes from a good heart, and it's wonderful. But it didn't come out of any deep reflection on what the goodness of this was for herself as well as for others. It came out of being nice, of course, and out of it from a right, it was a right and natural thing to do. And so she was very interested in knowing how to practice generosity in a way that would be onward leading, more forward, more onward leading toward freedom. And so he shared his knowledge with her, and his intention was to help her go beyond the realm of this routine and to make it a possibility for her practicing generosity towards freedom, towards liberation. So she shared the teaching with us and retreats out of that intention also. That the aim of the practice of generosity is twofold. The first aim is to free others, and of course to free them of their discomfort, of their suffering, not just in the present moment, but in the future. And we feed others to allay hunger, the suffering of hunger. It's to bring happiness to others. And also to offer our energy, our time, our material resources to help others have a little happiness in the world. And sharing our lives results in greater ease for others. And then there's the second aim. The second aim is something that we may not ponder very much or really know anything about. The second aim is to free ourselves. The first aim is to free others, and the second aim is to free ourselves. Not that we practice generosity with that agenda, but because it's one of the effects of generosity. Generosity being the cause, it's a natural outcome of generosity, because in that practice, it's a movement of the heart to let go. It's a movement of the heart to open, to connect, and to feel the deep interdependence, so that there can be such a safety in the heart that we can open, that we can let go. And this letting go is important all along the way. You might have heard it said, I love this phrase in the Dharma practice, it's said that the Dhamma is beautiful in the beginning, it's beautiful in the middle, and it's beautiful in the end. And this is a factor of generosity, this quality of heart of generosity. It needs to be present during all of our Dharma practice, in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. And why is that important? Because it diminishes the force of clinging. We abandon clinging. Generosity is the opposite of attachment. And so it helps to diminish that force, which is very important. In the laws of cause and effect, where generosity is the cause, the karmic effect of that is a greater ease for ourselves, greater abundance for ourselves on one level, but on a far deeper level, a far more reaching level, the result for ourselves are hearts that are freed from suffering. And so in the immediate act of generosity, we can feel greater ease in ourselves, and maybe a little bit along the way. So we have in the moment greater ease for ourselves, and a little long term, we have greater sense of wealth and abundance. And more reaching than that, at a deeper than that, is this total untangling of the heart, this great, great ease. Because of this habit pattern of letting go, that opening is easier along the way. It's easier and easier. for our heart, as Maninder would tell Kamala, when he couldn't say anything else, when she had reported to him about her progress in her sitting and how she was doing, and he couldn't really say anything else, he would just say, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. It's all he could say at times. So on an external level, it frees others. And on an internal level, it frees our own hearts. It frees ourselves. It frees us from the layers of clinging that we suffer for. The primary source, the core source of our suffering. Ajahn Chah said, do everything with a mind that lets go. Do not expect praise or reward. If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will know complete peace and freedom, the deepest liberation. When we practice generosity, there are so many good qualities that are developed, not just this heart and mind of non-clinging that eventually leads to the end of suffering, but also in a single moment of generosity, if you look closely at all of the Brahma Viharas that I was mentioning a little bit earlier, there's metta, kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, all in this single moment of giving. Kamala mentioned that when she was practicing a few years back at a meditation center in Burma where her main teacher resides, Sayadaw U Pandita, there's always an opportunity to offer a meal. And you might have noticed if you've ever gone to a retreat, there's usually a board or a little sign up before each meal because people have the opportunity to give to support the teachings and to support the yogis that are there practicing, and they put the person's name there unless you donate unanimously. But their names are put somewhere on a board or on a little plaque somewhere. And it's not like out of this egocentric kind of meaning, but it's a way of highlighting the beauty of one's heart and to maybe be an inspiration to the others who are present. And so it's such a different practice to the Western mind. It's a little uncomfortable maybe for some of the people in the West, but she got adjusted to it and came to love that practice. And in fact, during the offering, donors have a place in the side of the hall. Donors come in to a place at the side of the hall. They bring all their family members, and then they sit there joyously receiving the joy of the others for having the meal given to them. And they would rejoice in the beauty of their heart and would sit by the side of the hall and just to be with the others and the donors who were giving and share that happiness together. So in a moment of generosity, loving kindness has to be there. And as Sayadaw U Pandita would say, loving kindness and compassion go together. You would never hear that word separated. And when he talked about it, he would always say metta karuna, loving kindness and compassion, which is why oftentimes when I do the guided loving kindness, compassion at the end of our sit, I put those two together. They come together, goodwill and compassion. And so in a moment of generosity, goodwill needs to be there. The heart is in true generosity. There's goodwill, there's compassion, because we're concerned for the welfare of another. We're concerned for the suffering of the present or even the future of another. So we give. There's that sympathetic joy because you're happy for the happiness that they have, because of the gift that is being offered. Not just happy because of the gift in itself, but many times if we see more deeply than that, we're happy because of the giving, because that person is giving. They're giving, we give, they're happy, we gain that happiness back. And so much of my learning in the Dharma has become deeper in that way. And I understand how important it is to receive a gift. It used to be hard to do, but it's really important to receive a gift because your joy brings joy to the giver, and it completes the generosity of another. And I'm not only happy for the gift, but I'm mostly happy because of that person's act of generosity and the good karma that that person is generating. And not only of the good karma, but of the possibilities of liberation, more and more in that person's life. So sympathetic joy is there. There's sympathetic joy. And it's said that equanimity is also there, because one has to be willing and able and in a balanced heart to be able to let go of one's possessions, of what one is sharing. Mahasi Sayadaw, who's one of my teachers, Kamala's teachers, he wrote the book Manual of Insight. And he said that one of the great acts of concentration or seclusion of the mind is generosity. Just remembering one's own generosity. The Buddha talked about remembering our good deeds and also rejoicing in the generosity of others. People can be inspired by an act of generosity. And if you really understand the beauty of it, the beauty of all those qualities of mind and heart that are being developed in that moment, happiness, joy, compassion, equanimity. The Buddha said, if you knew as I know the power of giving, you would not let a single meal pass without sharing it with others. I've heard the story of Munindra when he was there on Maui, and Kamala would go to work and he would be at home. And when he ate the meal that she had prepared for him, he would always leave a little bit of it out for the ants, for the cockroaches, for the geckos. And she'd come home and ask him, how his day went, and he would be so happy because he had shared some of his meal with another being. And so this act of generosity is completely surrounded by happiness before and during and after. And that generosity brings great happiness in the world, to ourselves and to others. It's also said that generosity develops the spiritual faculties, the enlightenment factors. And this is something that has been recorded through time. You've heard me read this quote that I like to share all the time. I have it sitting here on my desk. There was a woman at the time of the Buddha by the name of Visakha, whom the Buddha identified as his chief patroness. She said of her acts of generosity, "When I remember my acts of generosity, I shall be glad. When I am glad, I shall be happy. When my mind is happy or tranquil, my body will be tranquil. When my body is tranquil, I shall feel joy. When I feel joy, my mind will become concentrated. that will bring the development of the spiritual faculties and also the development of the spiritual powers and enlightenment factors through this one act of generosity. So our generosity is the foundation of our own realization of the Buddha's teachings of peace. It's also one of the first paramis, those qualities of the enlightened heart, those qualities of being that develop in a way toward liberation, easy for us as householders to be involved in. It's very important quality because it develops, it begins to develop all the other qualities that are important. It weakens a sense of it's all about me. So in closing in this section on talking about generosity, I'm going to mention one other thing that sharing gives us this tremendous sense of stability, this sense of well-being. We're able to feel that if we actually ponder or reflect on it, understand it, know it for ourselves, we're able to feel like we're in this great web of life. Not separate, not alone, not feeling this sense of separateness, but part of all of life. I think that it was Ajahn Chah who said, if you don't understand no self, you might understand it through non-selfishness. And that non-selfishness, that being part of all of life, helps us to understand that I am not living here because of the kindness of others, that I am living here because of the kindness of others. And not only that, but others depend on my kindness. And so there's this great interdependence that we're woven in and that we realize more and more deeply as we share our lives with others. And so I encourage us to just reflect a little on the ideas of giving and of generosity. And can we remember times where, can we reflect upon those times where we have been generous? And can we notice, oh, the moment before the generosity began, the joyousness that happened during the giving, and the happiness that happens afterward from the happiness received by us from another. And, sometimes people think, oh, I don't want to reflect on my acts of generosity. It seems like bragging. But that's not really it. It's about uplifting our minds away from constantly finding them going toward discontent and being able to gladden the heart and mind by understanding that these acts of generosity, whatever they are, sometimes it's thoughts toward another, sometimes it's actually giving money toward teachers and monasteries and places where it's of great benefit. Or maybe it's even giving that $5 to the person that is standing on the corner in the rain with their sign. That understanding the deeper level of generosity, that it is really a way toward freedom and having an intention of seeing it clearly, beginning, middle, and end, is really, it does bring a great feeling of stability, of this, interconnected web of being. So let's let those words settle down and we'll have some conversation. I just want to thank you for listening. I'll ring the bowl and then I will see you and